Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to the latest episode of the Hard Compound Live. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, I am Rich, and I run and operate the Hard Compound here in the UK. We're a one-stop shop for all things motorsport, and we can be found on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. We put out generally 3 posts a day on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, morning, lunchtime, and evening here in the UK. So do come along and give us a follow. Hit the notification bell on Twitter and hashtags and all that stuff that we do on social media these days. We do like race reviews, race previews, any breaking news, driver news, throwbacks, birthdays, and anything else that we can shake a stick at. Really, we cover everything from F1 to IndyCar, bikes, NASCAR, touring cars, rallying, and everything else in between, if there is such a thing. So do give us a follow. We would love to have you on board. In case you hadn't noticed, we also do live video interviews, such as this one. These are automatically recorded for watchback, and the audio will be put onto a podcast in the very near future. These are streamed as we are now on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. And we've had some fantastic guests. We've done over 100 of these now. I won't name everyone that we've had on, but we've had lots of guests from the touring car world, both British and world, past and present, some absolute legends. We've had some people who have bridged the gap from sports cars to IndyCar to NASCAR. Just to give you a few names, we've had the honour and the privilege of speaking with Mr. Mario Andretti, with Mr. Jackie Ickx. We've had like John Watson, Hans Stuck. We've had Brian Redman. Mark Blundell. We've had Scott Pruitt, Mark Sura, Emanuele Pirro, Carl Wendlinger. We've had like Mick Asalo, Karen Chandhok, Martin Donnelly, Vincent James, Alan Jr., Will Power, Alex Polo, and many others. Guys like Derek Warwick, Stephanie Hansen, David Brabham, Mark Blundell, Eddie Cheever, etc., etc., etc. And they're all saved on our Facebook and our YouTube. So do go and check those out, but don't do it just yet, because we have a terrific guest waiting in the wings as we speak. So I'm going to stop my rambling. Our guest this evening is quite probably one of the most naturally gifted racers to ever get behind the wheel of a racing car. He's raced in single-seaters and in GT racing on both sides of the Atlantic. And he's got an incredible backstory to his career. So we're going to bring him in right now. Please join me in extending a very, very warm welcome to Mr. Tommy Byrne.
Thank you.
Tommy, how are you, sir? Good afternoon.
I'm very well, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving Day here.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving to everyone over there in the States. And if you're tuning in from the States, if you've got nothing else to do, thank you. Of course, very welcome. Firstly, before we go any further, thank you very much, Tommy, for coming on and having a chat. It's been... I've been wanting to get you on for a while, and through a mutual contact, we've managed to get it. So thank you very much for coming on and doing this. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you asking me, Rich. This is my first, probably my first live podcast. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, if things go wrong, it just makes it that little bit more fun, I find, when we do it live. And if you're listening back, do remember that this is recorded live. So yeah. And any fun stuff that happens, it happens. Just before we get cracking, I want to say hello to everyone in the comment section. Thank you all very much for tuning in. If you have any comments or questions, do put them in to the comments section across all the platforms, or whichever one you're tuning in on, and we'll do our best to work them in. But we've got quite a lot to get through. I mean, firstly, how's things going at the moment? I mean, you've been over in Ireland recently for an endurance race at Mondello, haven't you?
I was over there doing myself and Michael Fassbender and David Kennedy. We raced in the Ford Fiesta series. It's a 6-hour race. This is my third time doing it, and I love it. It's you can be racing from anybody from 16 years of age to 70 years of age, and you can be guaranteed one thing: anybody you try to pass, it's not going to be easy. It's great. It's just so much fun.
Yeah, it's a proper bit of racing. And obviously, you're currently based out in the States. Nice to get back to the wet and drizzle of the Emerald Isle, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the reason I left. But anyhow,
every now and again, it's nice to return.
Oh
No,
no,
that's
it's
great.
great to visit for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess a good place to start this, as always, is right at the very start. I mean, how did you first become interested in the world of motorsport and fast, noisy things?
I guess I was just, well, obviously I was born in the back of the car on the way to the hospital. Um, I don't know if that's got anything to do with it or not, but ever since I can remember, I was always into anything with wheels on it, anything that would turn. Just bicycles. I used to take my sister's bicycles apart, and well, I never put them back together again. But I did a lot of lightening of wheels and taking brakes off, and I just, for some reason, I just always was into that type of stuff. And no, really, my father never drove a day in his life. My mom never drove until she was like till I was 14, so she would have been probably in the 40s when she drove for the first time. And so where do we get? Well, I get talent. I don't know. I got 5 siblings and myself. Don't really know, but that's just something I live. And back in those days, there was always in Ireland. There was always somebody going around in a flash, hot, fast car, Escorts or Cortinas or something like that. And for some reason, they were always flat out, and the other reason they were always heeling and towing, blipping the gas and blipping the throttle, and that was happening a lot where I lived around our area, and it probably had got something to do. And then my friends had fast cars like that, so that's kind of where it started.
Yeah, I guess there was always that kind of noise, that sort of stuff going on, and it's never a bad thing to be drawn to in my book. I mean, it was, once you get motorsport in your blood, then and racing and stuff, then it kind of stays. When did you first think about getting involved yourself? I mean, were you one of those guys that wanted to go up and down the high street, blipping the throttle and stuff, or did you want to get on a track?
No, I had no interest in getting on the track at all. No, I did help a guy. His name was Tony Sharkey, and he used to race around the football field in Dundalk. And I worked with him fixing his car when he crashed it, and I had my own Mini with a guy called Stanley Meehan, a friend of mine. So I did have a car, for going around the football field in Dundalk, and we never took it any further than that. We never took it up north to Ahadui or any of those places, or up to Dublin. And that's kind of where I got my first idea of driving a front wheel drive Mini, and I think I was 15 at the time.
Okay, right, fair enough. I mean, I did read somewhere that you bought a Mini. I don't know if it was that one, with the intention of going rallying. I guess that was where it began.
No, I never did. Never got to rally. Just watched it.
Okay, right, fair enough. So you'd sort of you'd taken the Mini across the football field and upset the groundsman, I'm sure, and all that kind of a thing.
No, we were racing. There was a race around the football field.
Okay,
So
right.
we were all racing against each other. I think there was I don't know, 15 or 20 cars out there with metal all. Yeah, it was crazy.
Okay, I'm sure it was. I mean, goodness me, I'm sure there's some tales to be told there. But I also read that once you'd been doing that for a while, you ended up going to was it Mondello Park and going to the racing school there.
Yeah.
Was that just because you just wanted to keep racing, or
I was working first.
What was you thinking there?
I left school when I was 15, and I went to work as a welder mechanic in CRV, and then I lasted a year there, and then I went fixing crash cars for a guy called Joe McCardle, and so I did all that, and then I was always watching. I didn't even see a Formula One race at this stage, and my mom used to work in the Fairwells Hotel, and the cars would be driving to Mondello Park, and they'd park outside, and the car would be sitting on a trailer. So I think I remember sitting in one once. It was like a Formula Ford 1600, but to me it seemed like, wow. I think I might have watched Grand Prix. I think I watched the movie Grand Prix, and that's kind of when I started sitting in the car outside the hotel, which was like 100 miles away from Mondello. And then I still didn't have a car license. Now I'm 18 years of age. I'm 18, and a friend of mine went up there. Pat McConnell went up, and he did 15 laps for 15, I would say, punts at the time. And I said, "Did anybody ask you for your license?" And he went, "No." I said, "So that's it, just 15 pounds, 15 laps." He goes, "Yeah." So I got a lift up there I think he might have tucked me up. Somebody took me up the next week. There was another school, and I paid my 15 for the 15 laps. And and it was like raining, and I spun 7 times out of the 15 laps. And somebody told me if I put my finger up behind, because if you over rev it, they give you a hard time. If you put your finger up behind it, you can zero it. So every time I spun, I was zeroing the tachometer. And then, so it was John Murphy he ran the school, 15 laps, 7 spins. And when I got out of the car, I just decided that I was going to be a race car driver, that I was the best driver ever. I've got no idea where that came from. So before that, my goal was to go to America to be a mechanic. Since I was 15 years of age, is where I always wanted to be in America. I always wanted to work there. So, my life was all pretty simple. I was going to go there as a welder mechanic. And that day when I drove that car, Mondello, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep for days until I said, well, I'll be a race car driver instead. So I knew nothing at all about racing until I was 18 years of age, 1976 it was.
Wow. So I mean, so the bug bit super hard at Monda that day, and
really hard.
It just, I guess, became maybe not an obsession, but just something that you just wanted to keep doing and wanted to get better at. And I mean, from there, you went out and, I mean, you mentioned John Murphy. Obviously, he was a former racer, and he kind of oversaw what you were doing to a degree, from what I can gather. But was it you bought a Formula Ford Crossley 20F? I've got.
First car was a 16F Formula Ford.
Okay.
And I think it was 2,500 pounds at the time. So I think I bought that one in the end of 76. So I think I went to school in the middle of 76. So I couldn't wait. Till I got a car and got driving. So I would have said it would have been in the end of 76. And then, of course, I needed a better one than that. So then I think Brian Lennox, I drove for him for a while in Dublin, or in Mondello, in a Hawk. I think it was DL11 or something. Did that for a while, and then I decided I need a better car. So that's when I got with my mom, and we went to the bank and borrowed the money,
right,
under kind of false pretenses to get a new, and it was a new PRS. That's what we bought.
Okay, right. So you'd obviously been racing, around at Mondello and doing some racing in Ireland, and you've got this car. I mean, just on the subject of money, people seem to be thinking these days that money talks. People always say money talks these days. You get money if you get a seat if you've got the money these days. That's always been the case, isn't it? Even Niki Lauda bought his way in. We know that. Money's kind of played a factor in your early career, and from what I can gather, in your later career, because there wasn't any. That's what I can gather. I mean, you did everything almost hand to mouth, didn't you, when you went racing, especially over in Ireland?
Yeah, I mean, it was a borrowed car, borrowed trailer, borrowed tow truck to pull the trailer. I had a lot of friends. There's one thing that from my area in Dundalk and all the way through my racing career, I just met a lot of people, a lot of friends, and a lot of people helped me. And I mean, yes, it was nice when you win and you can pay it back, you get more help. But just lots and lots of friends. I mean, just people did stuff. It was crazy how it happened, because I would never have done it. I mean, I didn't even have a car to go to England. I mean, I borrowed a car the first time I went over there, and borrowed a trailer and the road car, and I crashed it because I had I was 17, I think it was 18 at the time, and I was tired because we never went to England before on a big trip. And my cousin was sitting beside me. He's 15. So I was so tired, I had him drive the borrowed car with the borrowed trailer and the race car on the back of it. And I think it was the main highway in England, the M1 or something. I fell asleep and he fell asleep. And we woke up in the middle of a crash. So,
Jeez.
Yeah. So we were able to, I jumped out of the car. There's trucks coming down towards us. Nobody hit us. We just hit the barrier. And then we had to get out. We were in Leicester somewhere. So we had to get from there to Donington. No cell phones back in the day, nothing. I ended up getting another trailer from somewhere. I think it was David Winstanley helped us. It's just, and that happened. I have a whole book on shit that happened trying to get to the races. And then when I did get to that race in Donington Park, we didn't have the entry in, so I didn't even get the race at all. So that was a big long trip. I I went on and on and on constantly.
Just kept, yeah. I mean, got to talk about the driving very quickly. I mean, I've done some, research as always, and I saw bits and pieces where, I mean, you were pretty much self-taught. You didn't have too much kind of tutoring early on, and I heard it might have been on another audio somewhere that you basically just slung it down the inside, locked up all four, and the car to go in as you turned in, and that was you learning about racing, overtaking, and things like that. Was that the case for you? Just
I
go
thought
for it?
I actually thought the more smoke came off the tires, the better I was doing, because I was able to make the pass every time. As it turns out, the people I'm passing was just shit scared that the crazy guy was coming up behind them, going to crash into them. And people told me not to do that. That's not a good idea. You flat spotting tires and everything. But my car was so bad, you couldn't feel anything anyhow.
So, yeah. Right, fair enough.
I figured, I don't know how I figured. I crashed a lot. I don't think I finished the race for 2 years, and so I did all my crashing early on.
Yeah.
Then one day it all clicked, and I figured out, what to do and how to do it, and what it all meant to use the brakes to get the car to turn and all that, the usual stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, and it's been said in a lot of places that you seem to have this natural ability to just drive a car and just be quick, and which has obviously been like borne out in the progress that you made. I mean, I guess the first big thing was coming over to the UK. I mean, you told us a story about Donington and all those misdemeanors, but I guess would it be fair to say the big one was 1977, the Formula Ford Festival, when you were in the RP1, and I think a few people I think they sat up and took notice of you.
It was a Royal RP21. That was a school car belonging to John Murphy, and I think I went over that on a bus through London, from Dublin all the way through Belfast, crossing the ferry back down, or maybe it was Dublin ferry, I don't know. But Martin Downey was in the truck with me in the bus the same day, and Joey Greenan, and Martin Downey, I think what is he now? So I'm 65. He would have been like 12 or something. Martin Junior, yeah. So that was my first big trip in going anywhere out of Ireland. And we went through London. I remember thinking to myself, I will never be able to find my way through London. This is nuts. And of course, 6 months later, I knew every back street in London, thanks to my friend John McCambridge, who loved driving around London in the middle of the night. But yeah, I did, getting back to that race, 77 race. I did a couple of the heat and the quarterfinal, and I did stuff that probably maybe the car shouldn't have been doing. And then people they started to talk a little bit about me then. Yeah.
I saw that you didn't make the final. You had a spin, from what I can gather. But obviously,
I'm surprised I didn't spin on the first lap.
Felt like a victory to get through, but yeah. So obviously, people were taking notice. The following year, you switched, was it to the Hawk, which sort of perhaps wasn't the most competitive car, and then changed car again. Was it the first time with that new car, that second car, having been uncompetitive, you stuck it on pole and won first time out? I think that's correct.
I won the first race because the two guys in front of me crashed into each other, but I'll take it.
A win's a win. We'll take it.
A win's a win. That's what I try to tell my clients. Yeah, a win's a win. But I can't even remember. I can't remember 78 at the festival in the Hawk. I tend to forget the real bad stuff. It must be the bad weekend.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. But I guess 79 was a big step. You got the PRS Works drive. I guess that is a big thing, having the backing, even to the level that it was. I mean, when you've got factory backing or works backing, do you feel a bit more pressure to deliver results just because you've got everyone behind you and you think,
I got it basically my first professional year in England. I was paid for by PRS. I got a works deal, and it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen that often. I was one of the very few who got that, and that was thanks to Byrne. Remember, I bought a PRS, so I was driving the PRS. So the PRS guys are watching me, and they've seen how crazy I was and maybe potential something there. And Byrne had put the word in, and Byrne had got me the deal. So yes, I went over there, and I was in Ostrad Ring. I was in Hockenheim 1, the big Hockenheim, small Hockenheim, Nuremberg Ring. Um, I mean, first year over there, I'm over in the Nuremberg Ring, the real, the big one, not the small one.
On the Nordschleife, yeah, the big.
And we were in Hockenheim before the chicanes, and we were in Ostrad before the chicanes. So
Yeah,
we were.
the
I was
proper
about,
Österreich ring, the proper one that I loved when I was a kid. What a circuit that must have been to drive.
that was absolutely fantastic, and that was the first time I learned how to slipstream. Because
Right.
remember, you're looking at a bunch of kids. Roberto Moreno was there as well. That was his first year, and then we had no idea what happens until you try it. So when I'm out there, and I think I was second going into a chicane, and 6 cars came down one side of me, and 6 cars went down the other side, and I'm sitting in the middle, and it scared the shit out of me. And I just went, "Oh, fuck, what was that?" And then like I go from second to like 15th. So then I got mad, and then I started learning and doing what they were doing and learn how to draft, and that happened in Hockenheim.
Wow. And well, that's the circuit to do it, isn't it? I mean, because in evenly matched cars, the draft is pretty much all you got, isn't it? It's because it's just so rapid. I mean, excuse me. I mean, but going out on these new circuits as well, that's going to obviously pay off in your learning as well and all that kind of a thing. Just want to sort of fast forward a bit into 1980. You got yourself into a Van Diemen, which, as we know, they were pretty often the car to be in. And you took a win in the Townsend Thoresen series. You won the Formula Ford 1600 Britain RAC Championship. Easy for me to say.
RAC, yeah.
Yeah. God, tongue tied. I mean, just regardless of whatever the series is and how it's badged up, or whatever, winning a series, winning races, that's got to be giving you confidence. I mean, especially when you're doing it consistently, to think, right, I've got the hang of this now. I've learned how to draft people. I've been learning on track and everything. Do you feel like that was a big step that year?
Well, the actual big step for me was the Nuremberg Ring in '79 when I won. That was my first major. I mean, I won a couple of heats here and there, but the Nuremberg Ring was the first one that I really won. And I was telling everybody to listen how good I am, and of course, I was showing fleets of like talent here and there, but I was doing a lot of crashing, and basically at that stage I was the only one who knew how good I was. So, and that race when I won the Nuremberg Ring race, then it was all for me. Then it was over. There was no more all day long waiting around to try and win a race. For a whole year I was waiting and waiting. The days was so long because we go out early in the morning. Once I won that race, then it was no more nervousness, no more nothing. I got into the car and I felt I could win any race after that.
Yeah, almost got that.
I proved it to myself as well, even though I knew. It was nice to know that you could do it.
Yeah, there was no like debating it. There was nothing else to prove, that you'd done it. And I guess, was it then a little bit easier to sell yourself at that stage? Because obviously, people, again, people forgetting there's no internet, there's no mobile phones. It's all done on phone calls when you can get it, and meeting people and things like that. Was it a slightly easier sell when you can say, I've just won a race at the Nürburgring, and I am good, and I can do this, and all the other stuff?
I mean, winning is everything.
Yeah.
Winning is it's all about winning. I mean, if you win, it's of course it's easy in any class of racing, and that's how we did it. John McCain is my friend who helped me a lot over there, as a lot of people did. Sure, yeah, it makes a big difference. It's easy sell. But remember, I drove for Works teams most of the time in those days. Like Ralph Furman, and I did all 4 championships with Ralph, and because they would sell a bunch of cars. Royal, PRS, Van Diemen. They sold hundreds of cars. So there was free drives for people like me and Senna and Moreno, and because Ralph wanted to try and get everybody, all the good guys, in his cars.
Yeah.
So that without that, it could have been a whole different story.
Yeah, absolutely, sure. Just going to comment from someone on over on YouTube. It's just under the name David. Sorry, David, I don't know your surname, but he said Tommy the Doc. He said a wonderful man, brother-in-law to Ralph Furman, who you just mentioned. Did they support you after PRF, Ralph Furman and all those guys? PRS.
After PRS.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I drove for Ralph for 2 years and 4 championships plus the festival. So yeah, he was yeah. Without Van Diemen, I probably would not have been here.
Right, sure. So that was a huge step. Just to say hello. We've got like Stuart Dent. Stuart, thank you to you. You are the man that's made this happen. Thank you very, very much. And he's tuning in. And he said that 7 years ago tonight, it was the premiere of Crash and Burn in London. We're going to come to that because we've got to talk about the film and the book. But it was 7 years ago tonight. So there you go. That's kind of cool.
Oh,
so yeah, superb. So yeah, I mean, you just mentioned obviously the importance of the support, Ralph Furman and all that. You went. Excuse me. You were. I guess the thought process was get up into F3 and into single seaters, but you did Formula Ford 2000 first in what 81. And you mentioned and you mentioned the festival, the Formula Ford Festival, which obviously was the place. Yeah, it was the launch pad into F3, which then was into F1 and everything else. Obviously, you won the European and British titles that year, but you stood in for a young for a young Brazilian chap, Ayrton Senna da Silva, who people have probably heard of. And you went off and won the Formula Ford Festival, and that must have been another big step.
Yeah, that was actually the festival is everything. Even though the same drivers who won the 2 championships the year before, the same year, one of them always goes on to win the festival, because nobody's ever come in from like nowhere and won the festival. Thierry Boutsen he was running up the front, like I think it's 77, 78, but he never won it. So basically, it's always going to be the same people: Roberto Moreno, Tommy Byrne, Senna, whoever was driving all year long. And yes, the year before I finished second to Roberto, but I didn't have patch. There's a special engine you get. We used to get in those days a minister, and it was called patch. Once you put patch in, we would test a week before at Snetterton, and that engine was always 1 second a lap quicker around Snetterton. Now the conditions are really good as well that time of year, but always around about a second quicker, and then around about you go to Brands Hatch about 4/10, kind of. But it's usually a no-brainer if you get patch. It's going to be a good deal. So I finished second in the festival the year before, and this year I went to. The next year I moved up to Formula Ford 2000, 1981. I won the European Championship and the British Championship, and still had nothing until Ayrton Senna decided to retire, and then Ralph asked me could I step down and drive the Senna's car because he left him hanging. He had nobody to drive. And first he asked me could I win the race. Can you win the race, Tommy, in that car? I said, fuck yeah, easy. With that car and patch, it's a no-brainer. I'll win the race. And then we went testing, and the test didn't go that great. In Senna's car. No, it was at Snetterton. It wasn't the second lap faster. It was just the same as it was the year before. There was no benefit, no nothing. And then the car was terrible, and I struggled hard. Then we went for the race, the festival. First heat, I won by 10 seconds because I jumped the start, got a penalty, and I won about 10.1 seconds. That's fine. Next race, I won pretty easy. The next one after that, the quarterfinal, Rick Morris was about 4 feet off my back bumper for the whole 12-lap semi-final. And that's when I decided, shit, this is not good. This is not good at all, because if I lose this race, then my career is over. And then
it was that big, wasn't it? It was that big a deal.
That big. And then I had an old man, Rick Morris. Hi, Rick, if you're watching. We know you were old at the time, but you're still brilliant. Because he was like 8 years older than us at the time, but he was super fast. He dropped down as well at the 2000. So he's driving, and James Weaver, he dropped it down as well from Sports 2000. So all 3 of us up the front.
Wow.
But I never went quicker than I did the year before in the old car for the whole festival. And then the final came, And same thing, Rick Morris is that far behind me for like 14 of the 15 laps. He made a mistake on the last lap, and I was able to take a deep.
Just
I won. I got it, and I won the race. I got 100 bottles of champagne for getting the pole position. I got a free Formula 3 ride drive the week after in Thruxton. That was the prize for Marlborough for winning it. And then when I got that drive, I did so well that Murray Taylor, he decided to get the money for me to go Formula 3 racing. So without that festival again, it would have been stopped. My career would have been done.
yeah, and that was the springboard. Just for those who don't know, Patch was an engine that had it was a powerful engine, and something had shot through the side of it, hadn't it? It was a piston, or something had shot, and they sort of patched it up.
Well, the little patch on it.
Yeah, yeah. It's just the nerd in me coming out. But so I mean, history will say that you won it with the patch engine, but it's not. It wasn't because of the patch engine, was it? Because as you said,
I'm pretty sure it wasn't patch engine at all. I'm pretty sure Rick had a patch engine because he was the minister driver, not me. I came down for a different.
Okay.
Anyway,
Gotcha.
It goes down. What comes around, but it was the longest day of my life.
Oh, I'm sure, because plenty of laps turned under pressure as well, and obviously what it meant going forward. But obviously things did go forward, and you went up into F3 with Murray Taylor Racing. That was in the Route RT3, which is a cracking car. I mean, I spoke with Kenny Atchison a while ago, and he's got one, I think, in his workshop, and he still loves it. I need to go down and see him. But I mean, obviously, you've been saying all along that you knew you were good, you knew you were competitive, and you could do it. F3 was the place to prove it. Did you have any expectations going into that season in 82? Was it a case of, right, we've got to go and win the championship here, or was it?
Oh yeah, for sure. You had to win every race, and by miles, and the championship. That's what I had in my mind, because I know where to go after that.
Right. And so the title win was the must. Obviously, that's how you that's how you were going to move forward. I guess, I mean, it's come across like you seem to take to cars quite quickly. Did you take to the F3 car pretty quickly once you got in it for the first time?
Yeah, I was always able to jump between car to car. I drove the celebrity, what was it, Sunbeams. I drove one of those twice, actually, Thruxton and Snetterton, and I was jumping from Formula 3 to one of those as well. Just a lot of fun. I went from Formula 1 to Formula 3 overnight too, and then back to Formula 1. That's a little different.
Yeah.
Because getting out of a Formula 1 car, it's you're sitting right beside, the front wheels are here, very close back in the day, and the wheels really, really wide. And then you get into the Formula 3 car the next day, and the wheels are way up there, and they're like bicycle wheels.
Sure.
So, but after a couple of laps, you kind of get used to it and just move on.
Okay, and obviously we'll come to F1 very shortly. I mean, I just want to say, I mean, you mentioned a few names on the Formula Ford grid, but in F3 that year, there was Kike Mancia, Martin Brundle, James Weaver, Roberto Marino, Davy Jones, etc., etc. I mean, it was a heck of a grid, wasn't it? It was an incredibly talented grid.
Yep, for sure.
And you went out, I've just got the results here, from 16 races, you won 7 of them, 3 more podiums, 4 poles, 6 fastest laps. I mean, safe to say it went pretty well that year, didn't it?
Pretty good year. We had a bit of a hiccup in the middle of, like, after the first 5-6 races. I switched cars, and then I stopped winning for probably 6-7 races, and kind of lost my momentum until I got a new car for Brands Hatch, and I started winning again. The one I won the Brands Hatch support race.
Yeah.
So there was a hiccup in the middle of it, so we got it fixed.
Yeah. Cool. So, as you say, it's been a terrific season. You win the championship. Just quickly, was it during that year that you were offered the role of test driver with McLaren?
I never was offered the role of test driver.
You weren't offered it, but were there mutterings about it behind the scenes that you were aware of, or anything like that? Or
nothing. In those days, there was no test drives around with any team. I think it was a couple of years later. Okay. I was sent to see Ron Dennis and the guys from McLaren. I was sent to see them by Murray Taylor, looking for money to finish the Formula 3 season.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. So that year, obviously, you finished the season. You won the championship, British F3 champion. And at that stage, the British F3 champion, that opens up doors. How did the move into F1 with the like Theodore team come about? Because obviously they weren't a top team. I think it's pretty fair to say. Everyone knows that. How did it all come about? And I guess you just wanted to get into F1.
It came about after I won the support race in 1982, because I think it was like 3 races after that I was driving the Formula 1 car. It came about. Sidney Taylor was the Irish guy who looked after a lot of Irish drivers, and he was the manager. He was Teddy Ip's right-hand man, and for some reason he wanted me in the car. Don't know why, because Jan Lambers was doing a pretty good job. Derek Daly drove that car first, and then he got hired to go to Williams.
Yeah, with the Williams, didn't he? Yeah.
And then they hired Jan Lammers, who was a fantastic driver. Of course, at the time I thought it was better, but thinking back on it, they were all pretty good, and he was exceptional. That guy was really good.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, they fired him
Yeah.
for me, and then that was through Sidney Taylor. The other guy, Julie Randles and Joe Ramirez, they were managers at the time. They were. I only found out after the book was written. They were against it. They were quite happy with Jan, so it kind of makes sense, kind of what happened.
Yeah, I guess, especially with like Julian. I mean, he was, as you say, he was against it, and as you allude to, that kind of leads into how it all unfolded with him not being particularly happy with it. But I mean, when you first got in the F1 car, was it everything you thought it was going to be? Was it when you got in it, was it just a complete? Well, I mean, it feels like a silly question because it was another level, but did it feel like another level on the F3 car?
It's a big monster. It's a big monster heavy car, and that particular car did not have any. It did not have any ground effects on the slow turns, and that was the slow turns were the worst turn for that particular car. And I thought it was tense. I thought it was 4 seconds off the pace. I think I think I've seen some times not long ago, and I think it was 10 seconds off the pace.
Wow!
And remember, there was 28 cars at the time. I think 24 of them would start. So 4 or 6 cars used to go home without qualifying, and we were kind of the closest to the front. But when you go for 3 years, you're winning everything, and you kind of get used to winning everything, and you're starting up the front, and it's kind of you kind of get spoiled, and then you actually get to Formula 1, which is the ultimate in the world. Which, by the way, my dream was I was never waking up every morning, oh my God, I want to drive Formula 1.
Right.
If it was taking me there, it was taking me there. Remember, I knew nothing about racing in 1976. I didn't even watch a Formula 1 race at that stage.
Sure. So,
yeah, I wasn't exactly thrilled not qualifying, and this is it, because then once you're in a bad car like that, there's usually a good chance you're not going to get out of it. You're not going to move. You're not going to move. Back in the day, today is different because they're all really, really good now, and they can move around, so there's still a chance for them. But that Formula 1 race was just, yes, you say, why did you do it? All right. How often do you get a chance to get a Formula 1 drive?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, it wasn't the ultimate, but what was I going to do? If I turn it down, I'm a cocky asshole. If I take it, I'm screwed anyhow because it's a bad car. So basically, it is what it is. And my friends, I didn't obviously have a manager, but my friends, obviously, what do? You don't turn down. And of course, I thought I was going to be better than I could do a better job. And you can't. You can only do a better job if the team is 100% behind you.
Sure.
If not behind you, nobody can make the car go any faster.
Yeah, absolutely. Your first Grand Prix weekend, correct if I'm wrong, was at Hockenheim, 82, and that was the weekend where it was throwing it down with rain in practice, and that was where Didier like Peroni had his accident, it ended his career, and started off a downward slope for him. Where were you when that happened, and did it kind of deter you in any way? Thinking, oh crikey.
No, I was thinking, well, I got a chance to get on the grid now.
It's a one less piranha in the tank type thing.
I mean, that's just everybody. Every driver was like that. Anybody that says different, especially the ones trying to qualify, they'd be lying. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. People only care about their other drivers when they're in it for 20 years and they become really good friends, and then you start wondering, well, But when you're young and trying to make it up there, nobody takes. But I remember the crash. I remember the legs. I remember because I could have qualified. I could, because Derek Daly hit him. I'm pretty sure it was Derek Daly hit him in the rain, pulled out, and he was right there going slow, whatever, or vice versa. Maybe Derek was going slow. But so there was a slot open on the grid, and I would have been that next car. Right. But we had to go to all the teams for them to sign a petition to say it's okay for Theodore, for that car to start last on the grid. Right. And everybody signed it except Ferrari.
Oh, right. Fair, which is kind of understandable given what had just happened, but then they withdrew the car anyway. So, unfortunately, you didn't get on the grid, but you did get on the grid first time. Austria, back at the Österreich Ring, fantastic circuit. You qualified 26th, but you were running a lot faster in practice, weren't you? From what I can gather.
At one stage I was 14 because that actually was a track I loved. Plus, it was all the turns were faster turns, so that particular car did work pretty good around that track. And I qualified. I think I was 14 or 15 in practice, and I thought I heard something in the back of the engine at the end of it, and I said to the guys, I think there might have been a bit of a pop in the engine, just giving them the information. So then when it come to qualifying now, now I can't qualify in 26, 27. So I don't know what happened. All I know is instead of checking the car, maybe the engine, they brought Jackie Stewart over to tell me how to drive.
Wow.
Well, that happened a lot in those days.
Jeez, I mean, so I guess that's a bit of a poke in the eye, to say the least. But I mean, it must have been awkward because you must have been happy to be on the grid. You're going to make your F1 debut in a race, but you knew you were quicker. Was it a kind of a mixed emotions type thing as you're sitting there getting ready for the race, your first Grand Prix, thinking I should be further up there?
I wasn't thinking I should be further up, and just thinking, wow, I'm last. I wasn't thankful. I wasn't grateful to be on the grid, to be honest, because I knew that, it's just, what am I going to, I don't know. But no, I wasn't excited. I was the last person. I was the last person in the car.
Yeah.
I mean, in retrospect, of course, I should have, just been more hopeful and think about getting experience and try to finish the race and not try to overtake anybody. But in those days it was all or nothing.
Yeah, absolutely, and why not? And why not? I mean, and sadly it all came to an end 28 laps in or something. I would be telling my 23-year-old driver today, listen, you need to get some laps under your belt. You need to get some experience. This is what I'm telling them today. Yeah.
Look at what I did all those years ago. And the reason I spun off was I looked in the mirror, and then going through the second left-hander, and I think it was whoever was coming up to win the race, looked in the mirror, took my eye off the road for an instant, and spun off.
Wow. Because things happen so quick. Excuse me. I just want to sort of fast forward. I mean, you weren't able to qualify it was like Dijon and Monza, two great circuits, but you did race in the Caesars Palace Grand Prix, which it was the second time around, wasn't it? They'd held the race, and everyone comes to back the fact that it was raced in a car park and all this kind of stuff. I mean, but there's a lot more to it, isn't there? They moved, all kinds of things. It's become quite well known, certainly with the Grand Prix being there recently. The circuit back then, obviously very, very, very different, very physically demanding, anti-clockwise, intense heat, things like that. How did you find it to race around that track in Vegas in that car?
Intense heat and very hard to drive. And I did qualify, yeah. And my other problem there was that's the first time I stayed in a hotel. I stayed in Caesar's Palace. That's the first time that I could watch TV all night, 24/7 TV and 24/7 room service. So I was up all night, getting room service and not so much drinking, but room service mostly and watching TV because it's like, wow. I couldn't sleep. And then the next day when I started the race, remember I only started one race before that. So you go from qualifying all weekend with 5 gallons of gas in it, 5 gallons of fuel, and then you put in 50. So the difference with the car is day and night. It's like the first time I drove at Austrad Ring, I came in and said, there's something wrong with the car. It won't stop and I can't turn the steering wheel. And they said, yeah, that's because now you got full tanks. You didn't have full tanks up until now. So that's how unorganized it was for any of it.
Wow. I mean, I'm the host of this thing, so I don't want to use too much language, but I was saying, is it true that you told them to stick it up there afterwards, after the race? I heard some mutterings that you basically told them where to shove it.
Yeah. Because I had no interest in doing Formula One again. I mean, that was it. I mean, remember, it was never my love in the first place. I just happened to get on go to the school and say, wow, I love all this. This is great. This is awesome fun. And but there's one chance of Formula One. I got it. So I knew I wasn't going to come back.
Right.
And I knew I wasn't going back with those guys because they treated me so bad. I did, I did tell Jody Randles to shove it up his ass, but it didn't matter. I wouldn't be driving it anyhow.
Fair enough.
Like before you get fired, you fire yourself.
Yeah. You kind of jump before you push type thing.
I wouldn't have driven with them anyhow. It's not,
because you really didn't. I mean, I don't want to go in too deep into this, but you really didn't get on to. You didn't really get on with Julian particularly. More so than anyone else.
The only person in the team.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the only one. Everybody else was fantastic. Joe Ramirez, everybody else, just great. For some reason, he was the one and he loved winding me up. He told me that if Kiki Rosberg was in my car, he'd be on pole. And then that's kind of when I might have. That's I think when I told him to go fuck himself or whatever. Yeah. Just stupid. Like you just don't talk to somebody like that. It's just 5, 6.
That isn't, as you say, someone that's won championships and is trying to, he's doing the best he can in your car. You don't talk to people that way, but anyway, guess that was lost on him. So obviously that was the end of the F1 in terms of the races, but you did do this.
Thank God that's over.
Push it on. But you did do this now famous like McLaren test at Silverstone, which was it part of the reward for the F3 title with Marvel sponsorship and things like that? It was, wasn't it?
First, the top 3 drivers in the Formula 3 Championship got to test the car, and then got to test the Formula 1 car, and then Kiki, what's his name? Not Kiki Rosberg. It was.
Was it Kiki Mancia, wasn't it? It
wasn't. Well, Mancia was the other one, and the other one was Boutsen. But he wasn't part of our deal. I think he was driving Formula 2 at the time, so he got it because he was a Formula 2 driver.
Okay, right. So obviously this is post Theodore. McLaren pretty good at the time, shall we say? I mean, they had like Niki Lauda and John Watson signed up and everything. What were you thinking when you turned up at Silverstone to go and drive a McLaren? Were you thinking this is going to be great, or I'm out of F1 anyway, I don't really want this? I mean, I'm just wondering what your mindset was.
The test was huge because I knew it was coming and they couldn't take it away from me. I wanted, and I was telling the Theodore guys for the whole 6 months when they tell me I couldn't drive, well, come and watch me in the McLaren and you'll see can I drive. And that's basically was it. And I would tell everybody to listen. Well, just come watch me, and you'll see who can drive or not. Because basically, the driver gets put down a lot. He's the
Yeah.
easiest one to blame, especially back in the day without data. Now you got data and stuff. Obviously, it makes a big difference. So no, I was all gung ho. What you're talking about because I brought the girl from the night before there.
Right.
Right, right. Nobody knew who they were. There was two girls. We went out the night before, me and John Townsend. Nobody knew who they were because the next morning when I got there, I decided, oh shit, maybe we should keep them to one side, and that's when John Townsend kept them off to one side. So nobody had any idea. I just put that in my book. I told the truth. Didn't make any sense.
I mean, I knew that you'd been out and had a night out on the night before. I didn't realize there were ladies involved, but no, fair enough. Good fun. We'll come to that a bit later. Just from reading and things like that.
Oh, shit, I just told you something you didn't know.
Right, yeah, exactly. I mean, I knew there was a bit. I didn't realize there was as much as that. Happy days. But yeah, was it 25 laps each or something like that, wasn't it?
We all got exactly the same amount of time.
Yeah.
I think it was 10 laps first or 12, whatever it was. Thierry Boots and Bum come in, brand new tires. Out he goes for the last run. I was the exact same as him, and I was gone. I didn't know what Kiki did because that was later on. Yeah, all the same for everybody.
Right.
Remember, this was probably the best team in the world at the time.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And when you first got in the car and you drove it, obviously you've got a slight preconception of an F1 car with Theodore. I guess there was no real comparison, was there, between the Theodore and the McLaren? It must have been incredible.
If you could jack off and drive at the same time, that's kind of what it would be like. It was just
that good.
First, I listened to Thierry Boots because I respect him because of what he did in Formula Ford at the time and Formula 2. He's a fantastic driver. And I was watching before I got in the car. I'm listening. Remember, I told everybody what I'm going to do. Everybody would listen. You come watch me. And then I heard Thierry, when he came in for his stop to put the new tires on, he was telling them how bad the understeer was in the car.
Right.
And he said, understeer is really bad here and it's really bad, da. And I'm going, shit, fuck. It may not be as good. I may not be able to do what I thought I should be able to do after listening to him. And then once I did get in the car and did install it, obviously I was already driving Formula 1 before that. I think after the third lap, I went, we're good to go. It didn't have any understeer. It was maybe I braked a couple of feet earlier, turned a couple of feet earlier and back in the gas earlier, and there was no understeer at all. And so then I was happy.
Yeah.
But I was definitely worried before that when I heard him talking about it. I thought, wow, this is not going to be good. It turns out it was great.
Okay, fantastic. And obviously, what a circuit to do it on what I call.
You couldn't spin the car if you tried.
No, it was just pinned. It
was just pinned. I mean, you could not. You drive into the turn and turn that wheel as hard as possible. You could not spin the car.
Wow.
It was so good. And by the way, that was a decent time, but that was not even on qualifying tires. Remember, we used to use qualifying tires, though. That was just a C compound racing tire.
Right.
But the qualifying tires were just another 2 seconds to 3 seconds a lot faster.
That's incredible. And obviously going around Silverstone, what I call the proper Silverstone before they cut it into bits and ruined it. With all the speed and the G-forces, I mean, what a feeling that must have been. Goodness me, to go around there. I've just seen Stuart Dent said that Dave Scott was the other F3 driver along with you and Kike, and the F2 drivers were Thierry Boots and Stefan Johansson, who were both good spirit. Yes,
Stefan was there the day before when it was kind of a little bit wet.
Okay, Stefan's great. He came on here and last year, and yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, I get to see him every now and then with my friend Jim McGuire from Aero. He's always hanging out with Stefan. So we were supposed to drive together. Me, Jim, and Stefan were supposed to do an LMP3 race a couple of years ago. It just didn't work out.
Oh, I'd love to see that because he's out in LA, isn't he, doing his artwork and still smoking and enjoying himself. And yeah, good lad.
Well, I'm not sure if he's doing the smoking, but he's doing fine. We're all doing fine. We're not enjoying ourselves like it used to be. Those days
That feels like a story for another day. but you've gone around there and you're doing your times with McLaren, and it's all going very well. And then you did these three curious, absolutely correct. Was it 1 minute 10.1 or whatever it was? This lap time that you were given three consecutive laps that were absolutely identical, and you were like a second faster than everyone else, and it was all going rather well. But they were incorrect times, weren't they? You later found out.
Well, Joey Grainer was timing on that day. My friend from Belfast, he was there with I think John Upridge, who worked for Van Diemen, and they were timing because I didn't bring I didn't bring a friend with a stopwatch. I didn't need to. It's McLaren, why would you even think of anything like that? So Joey came up to me later and said, "Tom, you were doing a 1 minute 9.6. They will not give me the right times the last three laps." And I said, "Oh yeah, really?" And so I went on. I didn't believe him. I didn't believe Joey Green, and I just thought that I didn't think about it. The 10.1, 10.1, 10.1. Every time I've seen it, I put my head down and I drive faster and I go, "That's it. I got it." And then I get back, same time. Talk about being Irish.
No comment.
I had no idea. I just thought it was so good. I was so brilliantly perfect. All three laps were exactly the same.
And it turned, but but it obviously turned. I mean, and I actually read somewhere. I don't know how true this is, but you set the third fastest ground effect time ever during the test, apparently, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cool thing to have. But obviously, it turned out that. I mean, I guess you knew going into the test, regardless of what happened, there wasn't going to be a seat for you because they'd obviously had Lauda and.
There was no seats at the time. I was told. Ron told me like way before that, and in those days, everybody knew who's driving what because, there's no test drivers, there's no nothing. It was just, it is what it is. Everybody was signed up, so I knew there's nothing. There was nothing for me. But
so it was, and the test was what it was. I mean, before we move on, why do you think that they were telling you that you were going slower than you were? I mean, I guess they just did they not want to give themselves a decision to make, or did they not? Yeah, they didn't want to put something out there that would cause people to say, well, why aren't you taking this guy on? He's going quicker than so and so. And any reason that you can think of why they might have done that?
Well, I obviously upset somebody.
Clearly, yeah.
Because Tony Van Dongen told me they didn't when I met him. It was 20 years after the fact I found out they didn't give me full throttle either, because Tony Van Dongen, the mechanic who put the pedals in that day, he told me that I didn't have the best car that day. And I said, same car as Boots. He goes, no, we were told not to give you full throttle. So there was two different things. There was that, and there was then the 10.1, 10.1, 10.1 registered in my head. Oh, shit. And then plus I went to a different gear going through Cops and the chicane on Cops. Instead of using third, I was using fourth after like 7 laps or something. Just because it felt like, I can do it different. Why? They went to Mark Hughes when he wrote my book. He went and spoke to Ron Dennis and Ron, Tommy's a great guy. Whatever happened to him? And then Mark asked him why did he know that his mechanics at the time, it was Tyrrell Alexander who was in charge, by the way. Do you know that you didn't give Tommy? Is there any reason you didn't give him full throttle or whatever? And Ron said, yeah, well, that was Nicky Lauda's Puka race car, and we didn't want him to crash it.
Wow.
So fast forward 20 years again, 25 years, Leo Sayer, Leo?
Yeah,
Leo Sayer, he's a friend of ours on Facebook, and he sent me a picture of him in the same car. Him and Nick Mason drove that same car next day. Wow. So the reason, obviously, they're not worried about two rock and rollers crashing Nicky's car, but they're worried about me. Now, I'm pretty sure that I pissed somebody off, whether it was Ron Dennis or Alexander, or maybe, because remember, in Formula One, that community is there forever. The teams are there forever.
Yeah.
The drivers come and go. You're 23 years of age at the time, and you're not thinking like that. You're thinking you want the best car to try and do the best you can, which most teams I worked with wanted the same thing. But I just got unlucky. Wrong car, wrong time, wrong team.
Yeah. Simple as that. And sometimes it just doesn't fall right, and obviously it didn't.
And I'm sure piss somebody off too.
There's obviously something going on. But...
All it meant was, if I didn't piss someone, all it meant was, instead of me barely qualifying, if they had listened to me, maybe I might have qualified for more races. That's all.
Sure.
But it still wouldn't be last.
Yeah, well, yeah, you wouldn't have been at the back with Theodore. So Stuart then again, he said even the incorrect lap times were the fastest a ground effect McLaren had ever lapped Silverstone. So there you go. Yeah, they were trying to hamstring you with a record.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Anyway, best team in the world. I didn't totally blew my mind 20 years after when I learned that. I was so distressed. I couldn't believe that I didn't know.
Yeah, even at that level, they were still pulling these little tricks, and yeah. So I mean, yeah, I guess. And just on the back of that, I guess there wasn't any opportunity to go into F1. You didn't really push it because
there was nothing there anyway. Now,
yeah.
If it had been the 9.6 plus with the full gas and maybe low nines, you don't know what's going to happen. People go, "What the hell?" But I never got that.
Yeah, and obviously no one else knew about the lap times.
Nobody knew until 20 years later.
Yeah, because it hadn't been published, no one knew, so they didn't take any. Yeah, fair enough.
Tony Van Dongen, because he had some balls. Because usually when you go against a big team like that, you're not going to be working for them anymore. Your kids are not going to work for them anymore, or your family. And Tony told the truth,
Yeah. So I suppose fair play to him for that. But also, unfortunately, that closed the book, I guess, on F1. But you went back to F3 with Eddie Jordan for a couple of years. Eddie is, I mean, I've not actually met the guy. I'd love to have him on here, but it's hard to get hold of. But he knew his stuff, didn't he? Especially around F3000 and F3000, F3, the international series. I guess you just wanted to race anything that was competitive at that time, was it? Or?
No. By the way, one of my regrets, I see that later on. You're going to ask it, so I'll tell you. I really only have one because I can't. You can't change your whole life. I probably would have went to America earlier.
Okay.
Rather than stay with Eddie. Eddie talked me into staying because he I think it was a cost sponsorship or the Yokohama sponsorship, and they liked me.
Right.
They liked me because no matter what anybody says, I was always good with sponsors. No matter whatever you do down the road, that I was a good sponsor guy, but they liked me, and the only way that they would stay with Eddie is with me. So then he convinced me to stay.
Right.
Of course, he didn't tell me this all at the time, but he convinced me to stay, and to win let's win the European title, Tommy, and then we get you into Formula One. But there's no drives around, and actually, no, I shouldn't say it was one of my regrets because it's probably one of the most fun times I've ever had racing, which is 1983 with Eddie Jordan, with Peroni, Cathy Muller, Pierluigi Martini, Gerhard Berger. It just went on. All we did was we traveled Europe and we just fucked off and had fun. And I'd be sneaking off to the disco at night, and over in one corner would be Gerhard, and over in the other corner would be Emmanuel. Pierre would all be hiding from each other because we're still trying to do the right thing.
Make sure you didn't spot each other. No, fantastic. Yeah, I can imagine Emmanuel doing that.
That Formula 3 series was just that whole year was just a great time traveling Europe. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So maybe it wasn't my big regret.
Yeah. Maybe in terms of the racing, but in terms of the fun, it sounds like it was a terrific, in terms of a terrific time. I think Alan Berg was in that series. I saw Alan the other week.
Alan didn't. I don't think he did the whole. I thought he did the British race, but maybe he did it. Maybe he did it. I don't know.
I think he did a couple of Europeans, but yeah, I caught up with Alan when he came over, and
we bump into him here every now and then too. Yeah,
because he's a fellow racing school guy, isn't he? Just very quickly, one thing I want to talk about very quickly. You raced at Monaco. In the F3 in '83, was that the one where you lost a gear earlier on, first gear or fourth gear?
I lost gear. I was with Eddie Jordan with Yokohama tires. We were the only car with Yokohama tires. I qualified third, and a stripped first gear somewhere while I was doing a start or whatever. I don't know, but anyway, first gear is gone, and now in Monaco, qualified third, trying to get into the first turn with the whole pack passing me. So I did a lot of weaving around. I ended up only losing 2 spots,
Right.
and I went, fuck yeah, that's way better than I expected at the time. And then I get to the first, I think the lowest hairpin, and then I remembered it's a first gear turn.
Oh,
And then
wow.
so those 2 first gear turns. So I did the whole race, past 2 cars, going past the tip top on the right hand side, just right where Stuart was standing drinking his drinks. I passed him right there, going into that turn past the tip top, and I had to slip the clutch going through the 2 hairpins because the engine was just so dead, and I finished third, which is probably one of my better races ever that nobody knows about.
Wow, that's incredible to do that around that circuit. And I'm sure there was a good night in Monaco followed as well. I'm sure that was a.
This one we can't talk about.
That's one that needs.
Ask Stuart privately.
All right, we'll have a word with Stuart. Interesting. But yeah, just while we're on the subject of Monaco, before we move on, because I want to get things rolling. Monaco's getting a lot of stick, especially from F1 fans. Obviously, there's some great history there. I love a street circuit. I always have. I think it's, the circuit should be challenging the driver first. Street circuits are a great challenge. Where do you stand on the whole Monaco thing? Some people say we need to get rid of it. Some people say the cars need to change. I think the cars need to change, but we need to keep Monaco. Just wondering what you think as a driver.
I don't know. Even if you change the cars, you can't. The cars are too big for Monaco.
Yeah.
I mean, but should it go? No, it shouldn't go. It should stay because it's the most popular race, most famous race in all of Formula One. So I would say no. Of course, the cars should not be driving around there. They're way too big.
Yeah, far too big.
They're too fast, and there's no overtaking. You have no chance at all of overtaking. But other than that, hey, the fans seem to love it. They keep coming back every year.
Absolutely. I mean, I've always said that it's like IndyCar getting rid of the Indy 500, or
oh no, yeah,
or like the World Endurance Championship getting rid of Le Mans, or the Aussies getting rid of Bathurst. It's got to be there. It needs doing.
Now, is Monaco more dangerous than the new Las Vegas? That's another track where they shouldn't have a Formula One car on. That's just unreal. At 210 miles an hour, if anything happens at that left-hand turn, God knows where the car's going to end up. I don't know.
Well, I think the MGM and Grand will be half the size, won't it?
It was great stuff, great racing, but man, it's fast.
Yeah,
I feel bad for them.
It's something like Monza speeds down the strip. It's just ridiculous. I mean, and it was a decent race, but
I think it's good for
and it's good for the photographers, but God dear me. Yeah, I'm not sure. Not sure that should be there. Just in the Stuart Denter said that your performance in Monaco in '84, driving the Anson, was nothing short of sensational. Hey.
I'm gonna have to text them and tell them to stop. Get off. Yeah, I did. I passed a bunch of cars that one too, but we had Yokohama tires, and we didn't have great ones for the race. We figured because in those days we had qualifying tires, and I said to Gary Anderson, I was driving for Gary. I said, Gary, I don't want to fucking fit. We qualified 17. I said, I don't want to be finishing 17, 16. I mean, that's not what we're here for. And then, we just haven't got the tire for this race. Do you mind if I pull over? He said, yeah, but pull over around the back so nobody sees you. So me and Gary always thought the same way. But in the meantime, we put on a set of tires for the race, and all of a sudden, car came alive. And I started passing cars everywhere, left, right, and center, and I got up to fourth place and passed the most cars out there. So that was the day that I learned never, ever give up, because you never know what's going to happen.
Wow. Brilliant. What a great place to do it as well. Well, I just want to fast forward. Yeah, so thank you, Stuart, for giving Tommy plenty to talk about.
No more Stuart.
Sorry?
No more Stuart.
Thank you for tuning in there. It's very good. Just quickly, you moved to America a couple of years later. Obviously, you said you wish you'd done it beforehand. You did a handful of races in Formula V and in IMSA and the Chevrolet Camaro and stuff, different kinds of racing. But sort of fast forward into what is now, I guess, Indy Next, isn't it? It was the American Racing Series back then. Were you aiming at IndyCar, or was it just a case of wanting to go to America and see what you could do out there?
No, I mean, I always wanted to go to America. Remember, I was going to go as a welder, so I ended up going as a racer instead. Yeah, I mean, you always try to aim for IndyCar, but at the same time, it was always, I had a sponsor with his own limo, and he looked after me pretty good for 3 years. But Bill Boynton and Susie Boynton, his wife at the time, but he didn't have the money to go Indy, and at that stage, it was like, it was just somebody had to pay.
Right. It was just another drive, and it was going to go up. And these Indy Lights cars. Anyone who's seen these knows I love IndyCar, and I'll always shoehorn it into any chat, even if it's got nothing to do with anything. What were those Indy Lights cars like to drive in the 80s? Because in the late 80s, the Indy cars that were driven, being driven by like guys like Rick Mears and Danny Sullivan and Lion Dyke, and obviously Mario was out there doing it. I mean, they were absolutely incredible cars, weren't they? How close were the Indy Lights cars to those?
Yeah, I don't know. They were pretty heavy. But the way I looked at it was all the cars are the same. We had a pretty good setup. I used to drive for Kerry Agapu, and he was the official ARS guy that took all. Remember, the series just started in '85, so he'd have like 6-7 cars in the trailer, and he'd take them, and people would try to rent them out and stuff. And I would get in and set every car up, whether it was like driving it and engineering it to get it the way we wanted it. And then somebody would come around to take it away. Then I'd get into another one. So I probably drove nearly every single one of those over the first couple of years. But the car, as far as the feeling, it's just not a car.
Gotcha. All right. After a couple of years, as you mentioned, you drove a number of different cars in that time. I was going to fast forward to 80. Was it 1988? You came second. You were runner-up to John Bighouse. Very, very close. You were close to winning the title that year, weren't you? I think it was only 3 points in it or something like that. You took 5 wins, 11 podiums. Must have been an enjoyable year, even though you didn't win the championship.
I missed the championship 3 different times by up to no more than 3 points.
Yeah.
Once I think it was 1. All for different reasons. One of the years I didn't. I mean, I made some mistakes, and like I got taken out a couple of times. That guy, when I was about to win the championship at the end of the year in '89, I was about to win $80,000 plus another 50 or something for winning the championship. So that would have been my time, and I had it all in the bag, except guy spun on the straightaway and from Australia, an Australian guy, and spun it in front of me. So that was the end of that.
That was just nice to be competitive again now after what happened with F1 and everything, but it must be incredibly frustrating when you miss out for a reason like that by such a small amount. It's got to be annoying.
No, I did. No, I loved Indy Lights. I won a lot of races, and I don't know many times I finished second or third, but I was always up the front.
Yeah, I mean, I've got something like 7 or 8 wins across the 2 years, and about podiums in over half of the races and things like that. So it's also a good time. But but as you alluded to before, I guess IndyCar was never really on the cards because of the.
I tested for pig racing. I did my rookie test with them. I think I drove twice at 2 different tracks to get my my rookie test. So I had that all done. It just mattered getting the money to do it, which never happened.
Yeah. Again, it comes back to the pennies, doesn't it? It's always the case. One thing I do want to touch on quickly, though, was Mexican F3. Now, Alan Berg did it. I spoke with Alan, and he thoroughly enjoyed his time out there. It was quite a lucrative deal, wasn't it? You were getting some, some decent, pound notes in your back pocket for that one, wasn't it? They threw money at it.
Alan at the time was driving Formula 2. There was Formula 2 and Formula 3 down there. And I was sponsored by Quaker State. And I had a friend, Jim Walsh, I think it was, in California. He put me in touch with the Quaker State guy. And in America, and I was sponsored by Quaker State in America too, and Indy Lights for a little bit. And so when I went over to Mexico, I raced a little bit, and then suddenly I was able to bring, got the sponsorship and brought it. And my deal was, I think it was like 60 grand or something plus 50% of the prize money with that team. And but I had to have cash. It had to be cash. It was a big deal because it's hard to trust any of them. So, but then Rogelio Rodriguez, when Magana died, a driver called I forget his first name, but he died in a Formula 2 race down there. He drove for Rogelio Rodriguez, and then Rogelio called me and asked me. I was doing Formula 3 at the time, so he called me and asked me, "Can I do Formula 2 as well?" And I said, "Sure, I need $5 grand a race." And he went, "You have to come do a test first." And then, so we did the test, and obviously I was quick. And then he goes, "We give you $1,000 a race." I said, "No, so I can't do that." So I ended up settling for $2,000 a race plus a minibar, no expenses.
Well, that's all right. That's a pretty good way to go racing, isn't it? Yeah, that'll do.
And then Formula 3 people got upset because there was a battle between Formula 3 and Formula 2. Right. So the Formula 3 people got upset that one of their main drivers, which was me at the time, was doing Formula 2 at the same time. They didn't like that, so they ended up paying me. I think they paid me like 80 grand not to do Formula 2.
Oh, right. Yeah. Being paid not to race. That's okay.
that was
I can do that. No, fantastic. One thing I do want to talk about though, and obviously, you won races out there, you had some success out there. It's quite lucrative for you personally. But obviously, we can't go into too much detail here, but there was a shooting incident that I've been made aware of in the last few days. What on earth happened there? There was gunshots and people running out of houses and stuff. And what was that?
Issue. He was kind of people keep saying he was a drug baron, a drug dealer. He wasn't really. He had some mental issues, and yeah, he did some coke and some drugs and stuff. But that wasn't his issue. His issue was he was just crazy, and he was really rich. So he was helping me out.
That's a dangerous combination, isn't it?
He was helping me out, and he was paying for engines and stuff like that, and that. I kind of half worked for him down there in Mexico City, and he had a bunch of girls in there in the offices, up and downstairs, and just what do you do? I was just trying to help. I was just trying to help him out a little bit, and Nacho. Then I heard gunshots upstairs because I was downstairs with some of the ladies, and then Nacho came. I went outside and said, "What the fuck is going on?" And he's standing up there completely naked. Girls are running by him naked, and he got a gun in his hand, and he shoots at me twice, and he missed. So then I ran into the room and hid in there for a while, and eventually he fell asleep. I got all his bullets, and then he came looking for them the next morning. That's when I decided to get out of Mexico, and I went down to my friend Alberto Lozano, my team owner, and Satellite, and I said, "Not he's going to kill himself or kill somebody else. I can't go back there again." So then I went back over to America, and that's when I went to Middle Ohio and started a real job.
Wow. I mean, yeah, as reasons to get out, I think that's probably the full stop at the end of the thought process, isn't it?
2 weeks after that, he was found dead in a swimming pool.
Oh, wow. Goodness me. Quite a story. Yeah, you don't get that in Hampshire at Thruxton, do you? So obviously, you touched on, and you're now doing driver coaching and things like that. And are you? Because obviously you're in Florida at the moment, but you do a lot of work at Mid Ohio Racetrack.
I've been in Mid Ohio for 30 years. I've been there for 30 years in Mid Ohio, and probably now I used to do 150 days a year. I'll probably do more like 30 this year and 30 last year. Driver coaching for a couple of teams, Midwest Eurosports up in Chicago, and TLM with Jim and Molly Hammond. Jim, Stevie Hammond, and Molly Hammond's the manager.
Right. Wow, fantastic. That's cool, and it keeps you busy, and keeps you around racing and things.
I'm getting paid actually and I get to drive still, so I drive a lot. I get paid now, and I'm having fun, and it's fantastic to drive just for a hobby. Now I know why people get addicted to it as a hobby. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I'm sure. Terrific. I mean, again, there's something that I did see very recently. I heard an audio somewhere a few years back. I forget where it was, but on the same day you drove the Rothmans Porsche 956, that Porsche, the Porsche of a generation, the Senna McLaren road car, and the Benetton 191, which I believe was owned by Brad Hollinger.
Yeah, well, then
Hollinger. And you
the
get to
first
drive over the same day.
same day. The first two was Malcolm Ross, my friend Malcolm Ross from Columbus. He's got a really nice collection of cars, and when I drove that Porsche, and the seat moved. He's 6'4", so I usually cannot drive his cars, but that seat moves back and forth like it did back in the day. And of course, again, I don't know the history. I didn't know it, but the mechanic told me you better be careful of that car. That's $1 million car. I went, all right. So turns out at the end of it, it's a $15 million car. And something did break. There was a little thing in the middle of the front, and it broke a little bit. I did like 10 laps on that one, and then I was over talking to Brad and his team. My son TJ was with me, and Brad said something about, I read your book or watch a movie or something like that. And then he said something, do you want to drive it? Now that 191, I think Moreno drove it back in the day, by the way.
Okay.
And so I said, sure, I'll drive. So I got into it was a little awkward with seats and stuff, get it in that. And so they were the ones who used to rev up to 17,000 revs. I come down the back straight away at West Palm Beach, lift off the gas at the 5 marker, and the car came to a stop without even touching the brake. So then I had the gas back up again. So I did another one and got a little bit further, then a little bit further in, and it was embarrassing how much downforce there is without even touching the brakes.
Wow.
And then the revving up, 17,000. I never even seen any lights. I probably changed the gear at 10,000 revs. But
wow.
I mean, still customers' cars. I still have to be careful. But the best car was the Senna McLaren. Just a very comfortable car to drive around. I mean, they're really, really nice.
Yeah, fantastic. Wow. I mean, that's a pretty good day, isn't it? Driving those three. It's.
And back in the day, I would never even thought of it. I'm not driving this fucking car. I have no interest. And now I have interest.
Now you think, oh yeah, fancy it. Just a question pop up on Facebook. Just a very quick one. It says, can you ask him his thoughts on Ayrton Senna's accident, obviously Imola '94, and what you think went wrong? I mean,
I've raced around that track, and that turns if easy flat out. That's not even a turn.
Yeah,
obviously something broke in the car.
Yeah,
and Ayrton just fucking very unlucky.
Yeah, maybe a different angle.
Gerhard Berger, I think, was 2 years before that.
Berger was 89, I think, was Berger, the fire. Yeah,
same type of accident, and he walked away. It was just unlucky.
Yeah, I think PK had one there in '87. He stuck it in the wall, and
same thing, walked away.
Yeah, there was Alboreto. There's a few others. It was just rotten luck.
You only crash there if something breaks.
Yeah. Okay. Because this is the old Tamburello, not the one that they've done, chicanes and whatnot. Yeah, I can't help think that a tyre stack might have been a good idea, but hindsight, isn't it?
I guess after.
Okay, just very quick on the subject of F1. I'm just going to wind down a bit now. There's only been 5 from the Republic of Ireland, 5 drivers who have made it into F1. You're one of the 5. The last one was Ralph Furman Jr. Do you think there's a possibility of any young driver coming through or in Ireland? I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with how things are set up in Ireland these days with young drivers and whatnot, but do you think there might be another one coming through soon?
It looks like the new one coming at the moment is Alex Dunn.
Yes, that was the name I had in my head.
He's just finished. He just finished second the first time ever been around my car. Just got the deal the week before.
Yeah.
And he's won everything he gets into. He wins. So it looks like I've never heard so much buzz in Ireland about a driver in 20, 30 years.
Right. One to keep an eye on, and obviously people are going to be familiar with him already, I'm sure. There is a young lady from Ireland actually called Kales Cole. She's in F1000 at the moment, if anyone is aware of her. She's doing amazing things. She's won everything in karts, and she's now doing F1000. She's getting some sponsorship, and and she's mixing it with some much more powerful cars. Very seriously. Yeah, Kales Cole.
Yeah, I'll look out for her.
Racing. She's from just outside Cork, and yeah, very, very impressive. So we might have a young lady coming out there, which would be wonderful.
No, Ireland's doing really good. Max Hard as well. He won Macau as well. Yeah, it looks like there's a good bunch of drivers that's coming from there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Someone said, just going back to Imola, in theory, a tyre wall could have helped, but would possibly have thrown him back out into oncoming traffic. There could have been a gravel trap. Yes, there's all kinds of things that could have been gone on at Tamburello there. Yeah, another what if story. Very quickly, I don't want to go into this too much details before we get into some fun questions. You're how can I put it? You're perhaps known for having some fun off the track as well as on it. It was just part of the lifestyle at the time as well. Obviously, it doesn't happen these days. A few people have asked, can I reference it to you? And is there anything you can, any tales that you're happy to tell us? Just any little fun bits and pieces that may have happened in Macau or somewhere? Because we spoke with Jerry Marnie, and my goodness, he's got some tales from Macau.
I know those guys in Macau. I started a chicken fight with Teddy Ip. Like just a huge, like 300 people chicken fight, throwing the chicken all over the place, and it was crazy. And those guys got all pissed off at me, the drivers, and they had me up over their shoulders, taking me out, and there was a big fountain at the time, and they're trying to throw me into the fountain, and my arm was pulled up around my back and everything because they're all drunk, and they were trying to throw me over, and there was like spikes. There was spikes sticking out of the thing. I went, wow. And I said, I'll jump in myself. But the Macau thing, and of course the boat, whenever we went out in the boat, not a ship, one of those little, what do you call them? The boats in the island, in the river in Macau.
Oh, the little junk things, little
junk. Went down the junket with Sidney Taylor and all those guys, and I remember the captain went off to get some chicken again, more chicken, and he comes back in. I was helping him up out of the boat, and I let him go into the water. And so the captain of the junket took off because he was, I guess, to get really pissed off. What is it? To get really upset with stuff like that. So we had to get a different captain. Yeah, so they weren't very happy about it.
Ah, crikey. All fun and games. I'm sure there's many, many, many other tales that can be told and things like that. But no, we will not dig. We'll not dig too deep. But just see, we've got like Billy Edgerton. He runs IndyCar Fans UK. On Facebook, and he said that he's listening while driving a double-decker in Galway City in the west coast of Ireland. Well, hey, that's cool. Yes,
I want to be on top. I want to be on top of the double-decker going through Galway City.
Sorry. Oh, okay, right. One more from Stuart Dent. He's dropped you in it one more time. This is the last one. Thank you, Stuart. Tell Rich about the murder scene in Monaco '84.
Oh yeah, no, can't do that. No, that's what I told you.
As soon as the word murder comes up, you think, I'm not sure he's going to...
It was pretty bad. I mean, nobody was murdered, but I can't talk about that. But...
No, fair enough. Fair enough. Right, okay, just going to wind down with some fun questions. Someone has just put a question on YouTube. Homeboy RC, hello. It says, is there a driver that you didn't race against, but you wish you had? Ooh, good question.
Not really.
Just happy with.
Oh, I never did race against Senna. I wish I had.
Okay, yeah. You raced in his car, but obviously never against him. So yeah.
I mean, I drove against him in my car, but I was in at Anson at the time. He was in there, so it wasn't apples to apples.
Yeah,
I would like to do a year with him.
Yeah, that would have been very cool. He's also just said we're surprised we didn't see Tommy in the British Touring Car Championship. Was that ever on your radar? Touring cars ever?
Once I went to America, that was it. I wasn't coming back.
Yeah, that was it. Fair enough.
Not because I hate England and Ireland. Mostly the weather. I can't do that.
Yeah, cold weather. Yeah, fair enough. I guess once you get out to the States and Florida, it's kind of worth staying. What do you think? He says, what does Tommy think if Roger Penske? What do you think of Roger Penske's takeover of IndyCar? Good question. We like that.
I think it's good for Indy.
Definitely.
It's good for IndyCar. He's a big businessman, good businessman, and the track itself. Well, he owns the track as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the track is like beautiful. They're just doing a lot of work to it. I love going to Indianapolis.
It's It's incredible. I'm gonna again. This comes up in every chat. I'll make sure I mention it. I went to the Indy 500 in 2022. It was going to be for my 40th, but we had to do it a year later because COVID and whatnot. With Marcus Ericsson won, and they say it's the greatest spectacle in racing. It's the greatest racetrack. And I thought, well, is that America being America and bigging it up? And when you go, it is, isn't it? It just is. It's absolutely incredible. And Roger Penske has like revitalized it big time, isn't it?
I mean, it's huge. It's got a golf course on the inside and on the outside.
Yeah,
it's a golf course. Half's inside, half's outside. It's ginormous.
It is. It's just an incredible place. Absolutely incredible. We're on the subject of IndyCar. I mean, you know about the American scene. You know about F1, things like that. Scott Dixon, I think, is probably the most underrated driver of the last 30 years in any formula. I was just wondering your thoughts on Scott, because if he'd have got a decent seat in F1, he'd have been a multiple world champion, I'm sure.
I'm not so much sure if he's underrated. He's just comes across so quiet. You just probably don't think about him at the time. And I think Scott, he obviously he's won everything in America, but I think he was probably happy with it, at the time, because if you don't get to Formula One at a certain time with the right team, like Jacques Villeneuve, and I think Villeneuve won the championship. He's not going to take a chance like that. But he's just a little quieter. But man, the guy can drive, especially on the ovals. He's fucking awesome.
Yeah, he's unreal, and I think he should have won the 500 in 2022.
There's a couple of times he should have won it. But I'll tell you one thing: that IndyCar series is just so competitive. I mean, you're looking at sometimes the whole field is 1 second. Like in certain tracks, the whole field is separated by 1 second. It used to be a missed gear shift. It's so competitive. It all comes down to strategy, and doesn't sometimes even matter how quick you are, because you get caught out with the yellow flag at the wrong time, and it's very, very competitive.
Yeah, I love it, and I'll say it till the cows come home. It's the best single seat series out there by a country mile. I absolutely love it. Just gonna what have we got here? Let's have a quick look. Just a couple of last ones. Oh, someone actually did email me earlier on saying, why were you never the Stig on Top Gear? He said you'd have been perfect for it.
Yeah. Well, actually, I wouldn't, because I wouldn't be able to keep a mouth shut.
Ruin the illusion of the Stig.
Yeah.
No, fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, let's have last one. Okay, what's the best racing car you've ever driven?
McLaren.
I thought that might be the case.
The second, okay, let's say the best would have been the McLaren, and the fastest would probably be the number 83 1990 Nissan GTP car.
Oh yeah.
I tested that at Riverside with a bunch of guys, with Derek Daly and Ari Leindak was there on the same day, and then that fucking car was just, I think it was like 12 or 1300 horsepower and so much downforce, and just so fast. Yeah, that was the fastest. McLaren was the best.
Fantastic, brilliant, and that brings us on to one that I was going to ask. We've got Marion Speed in the comments. Evening, Marion. She said, "What's the worst?"
Theodore.
No hesitation. Yes, wasn't the best, perhaps. Okay, let's have one. Okay, two more. Was there, apart from IndyCar, which obviously we know you would have loved to have done, is there a series that you would have loved to have had a go in if you were given a free pass, whether it be NASCAR or Aussie Supercars or Le Mans or anything like that?
Well, I tested NASCAR belonging to Earnhardt years ago. I did 25 laps and then I crashed it. So I was kind of heading in that direction, but that was the end of my NASCAR career. Was at Charlotte.
Okay.
Yeah.
That wasn't the way you'd done the NASCAR.
It was Martin Byrne's car. Martin Byrne's, he had it in a partnership with Earnhardt's team, and then I got to test it at Charlotte. John Paul Jr. was there at the time, and then I just touched the brakes going into a turn and backwards into the wall. So yeah, and then they offered me then Earnhardt's team. They used to have the Bush team, the smaller team, and nobody drove the car except Dale himself, and and they offered me a drive for expenses only, $10,000. That's one of my regrets. I didn't borrow that money. I should have borrowed that money.
Right. Well, that would
But
have been
his team was fantastic, and that car, the difference would have been huge.
yeah. So I guess like NASCAR would be the one. And again, it's something that doesn't get enough credit, I don't think, over here in the UK. People think it's just going around in circles. I just think, oh, well, if it's that easy, you do it.
Listen, I had a hard time just going around the track on my own. Just with a solo car around Charlotte, and then I was leaving. Then I think I watched the race. I was there the week later for the race, and they were going through 3 abreast going into the turns. And I could just go, holy shit! Just so you have to. NASCAR would be like a huge learning. It would take a long time to get experience, years to get used to what those guys are used to. Like a little turn here and get a little close to the back of the car. It's just experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure. Okay, penultimate question. What's the favourite circuit? Have you got a favourite circuit to drive around? One that you've done well at, or one that you just enjoy the thrill of?
Nürburgring.
That would do it. That would certainly do it. Okay, final question, and it's an impossible one, absolutely impossible one, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
I can't change anything.
You've raced against many drivers. I mean, yeah, we've mentioned like Mario Andretti, Niki Lauda. You've raced against Mansell, Prost, and Piquet, and Watson, and Patrese, and Warwick, and even guys like Jimmy Vasser, Paul Tracy when you're out in America, and guys like Derek Daly, Martin Brundle, Winkle Hock, and so many drivers you've raced against. Is there any that stand out in your mind as being maybe not the best, but maybe the most complete or the toughest or anything like that? Is there any of those drivers that stand out in your mind?
I mean, I race against all those guys, but I never race against them. Some of them, they happen to be in the same race. I never get to see them, But I will say that when I was doing Indy Lights, Paul Tracy, I won a couple of races in front of him and Juan Fangio. I think I won races between both of them. I stayed in lead for the whole race, which is over like an hour and 10 minutes. And both of them were like 5 feet off my back bumper for the whole. So I had to take a deep breath every single lap, put my head down, make no mistakes, or I was going to be beat. And so Fangio was a great driver. I had a lot of respect for him. But Tracy was the one that I kept waiting for the bang in my ass towards the end. So yeah, if you're saying, did anybody ever get my attention? Yeah, he got my attention there for that. That was a long race waiting for trying to hold him back and not get crashed out.
Yeah, I'm sure. I've spoken to a couple of the IndyCar guys, and a couple of them have said that it was the same with Paul Tracy. Maybe not a household name over here, but and he should have won Indy, shouldn't he? I think he got cheated out of one. I forget. Was it Ari Leindyke's second win? I think it was, wasn't it? 97, I think it was.
Yeah, maybe. You're probably more of a buff than I am.
Nerd. But no, brilliant. Stuart said Didier Tace. Yeah, he was a good driver. Didier was a very good driver.
Yeah, Didier was. Yeah, Didier kicked my ass in 1977 and 1987 with Indy Lights.
Yeah,
it was me and him all the time. We were going for the championship right up until. That's right. I hit him. My wedding. I got married in New York, and we were racing up there in New York. And with one lap to go, I dived down the inside of him because I was trying to get the lead. And I hit him and went over the top and landed. Hit the third place guy. We were lapping, and then landed, and my whole car just exploded. And all the people who were there for the wedding up on the motor. Yeah. Me and Didier had some good races.
Yeah, he was a guy who made it to IndyCar as well. The other one was Mike Groff as well. You were racing with in IndyCar. He was very, very good as well. No, fantastic. Right, well, we said it'd be about an hour and a half, and we've done that. Thank you. Just seen last little comment from Jerry Marnie, who's tuned in. Evening, Jerry. Lovely to see you. It says good to see Tommy on here. He is the only guy in the 1980s who had a reputation for being madder than me.
That's good.
And Jerry said that. No, great stuff. Tommy, thank you very much for sparing your time to come and have a chat and tell us some of your tales about the career. Certainly a unique career, and And I just want to plug this very quickly before anyone goes. It is in reverse because of the camera, but this is Tommy's book, Crashed and Burned. Absolutely brilliant read. Brilliant read. And there's the film as well, isn't there? Which is well worth a watch.
And I just signed a deal for a film. Alison McNeil Productions. Yeah.
Well,
like a real film.
Oh, like a proper film. Fantastic. Yeah. We'll be looking out for that one as well. Oh, someone just said that we need the After Dark stories. My goodness.
Yeah, that's a different podcast.
That's a different one. We'll try and sort something out again for that, and we'll put a warning sticker on it. We'll be fine. But guys, thank you very much for tuning in. I do hope we've covered everything for you. Tommy, thank you very much for sparing your time. Really appreciate it. And
appreciate it.
And I'm sure we'll catch up again soon, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Bye.